So I'm just going to show you a few things that I've been working on in terms of cleaning up my data. I think that's really important. I started doing it and I was like, you know what, I think this is a good thing to record. I've already done a lot of what I wanted to do, but if you remember before, I had a bunch of the fields that I went through when we were creating fields together, and I eliminated all the ones I don't think are necessary. Like I had the price field, I had a number field, I had a percentage field, like things that are not really pertinent to this customer field. And something else that I did, which it could be helpful. So right now I have, we built this field together called all customers, and it has every single customer that has ever been entered. And what I did is I created an active customers because I have this field called status to where I can put them as either active or inactive, whether or not they have an open invoice or not. At the moment, or maybe they, no longer work together, or I haven't had them as a customer in a while, or whatever. This is up to you. If you don't want to use this, you don't have to. But for this example, I am using the status. So I created an active customers view of the data. So you don't see the status here because it's already filtered by that. So if the status is active, that's going to show up here. What I want to do is I do want to create another table called, I'm going to move my head over here. I do want to create another grid, and I'm going to call it inactive customers, create new. And I'll just leave it at the bottom. And then what you can do is you can filter to where the status is inactive. I just realized I have my headphones on. I don't need my headphones on. So as you can see, there's no inactive customers, but if I change Johnny to an inactive, then he'll show up here. And then whenever you get to the status, you can just hide that if you want. I like to hide it because it's kind of redundant and it's filtered by that status already, so you don't really need to see it. So I like to turn that kind of stuff off. And I also, like, there's a lot of things that I just don't need to see. I want them in the background and I want them there and happening, but I don't necessarily need to see them. So you can choose what you want to see. Same thing for me. I eliminated a lot of this stuff in these views. There's still a lot of the other stuff that that you don't need. So I'm going to actually clean this up a bit and just kind of show you what my thought process is. Again, this is totally up to you and how you want to view data. Again, the tags, it's being filtered by that. So I don't really need to see it because I have, this is the business owners, it's being filtered by that. So I don't need to see the type that they are. I've mentioned before reordering stuff so you see things in a specific way whenever they show up in your data. So I like to reorder that. I also like to kind of clean up the widths a bit because, like, rating doesn't go further than 5. So if it's not going to cut that off, make it as small as you can. That's something that I like to do. It just makes it look a little nicer. It's a little bit more consistent. So, okay, this is good. Do the same thing for this data. The thing with the email is I like to make it as big as the longest email that I have. So it's right now it could be that, but there might be an email that comes in that's a little bit longer. So it depends. Phone numbers are pretty much always the same unless you're in a different country or you're working with multiple country codes. That could be, again, I would just set the data to whatever is the most, like, the longest thing. Again, tags, I don't need this because it's filtered by that. Move this rating. If you're not using ratings, you don't have to. It's totally up to you on what you want to show. So again, all these dates, I want them working in the background. I want to know who's updating my stuff, but I don't necessarily need to see it all the time. If I do want to see that, I usually just go in and I will unhide it and if I need to, like, see that information. But if I don't need to see it, it's not something I really need to see all the time, every single view. Another way that you can view information, which I'm going to show now, and I've gone through this before, but now that we have some data in the database, I just kind of want to show how you can view the data. So now we've got some data. So let's create a list view of, let's just call this all customers. Let's call it customer list for this example. And before I do make this, I just want to point out that you can create a collaborative view, which if you're working alone, you're obviously not collaborating with anybody. But if you do have people who are shared to this database with you, and when I say database, I mean this whole thing is a database. So all the tables make up database. If you have people who are shared to the database, if you make a view, they're going to have access to it. If you want it to be a personal view that only you have access to, then it's going to look different, and it's only going to have access to you. And I'm going to make this as a personal view just so you can see how it looks different in this side pane. And then if you want to have it be locked to where nobody else can edit it, but maybe they can view it, then you can do that as well. For this example, I'm just going to make it a personal view, and I'm going to call it customer list. And so as you can see, it has personal views here, and then it has all the views which are collaborative, which everybody can see. So here, it's going to show the name field, which in our case is the calculation or the formula, and it's showing the full name here. And that's all it's going to show by default. If you want to see other things, like let's see, you want to see their email, you want to see their phone number, you want to see their rating, it's going to show up like this. And you can adjust these to be the widths that you want. They have default widths, which are pretty much the same for all of them. So again, I try to make this as clean as possible to where when you can click into it, you see that, and it's only going to show when you click into it. It's only going to show you the fields that are shown in the view. It's not going to show you everything. And you can also click into it by just selecting the row. That's why I like the list, because it looks cleaner. You don't have all of the grid and everything. And it also shows you the record that you clicked on last, which in other databases is called like an active row, I think. So you can do this. You can also filter. You can filter the data by who's active, who's not active. In this case, I want to show everybody. So whether they're active or not, this person doesn't have a rating, so I'm going to rate them. Johnny Rocket's not super great to work with. Another really cool thing about this is you can set levels. So it's sort of hierarchies. So let's say you want to, the first level is customers, obviously, and you can also change this to a different thing. So if this table was showing courses, or if it was showing departments or tasks or anything else, you can actually select what that is. And there's a lot of examples here. So there's quite a bit of choices. The level above, now let's show, I don't know, let's select invoices. I haven't played with this particular data set with all of this, so let's just see what it looks like. So the invoices, you're going to see the invoice number, and then you're going to see, like, let's say there were multiple customers on the same invoice. Let's say you had multiple companies and they were all, involved in the same invoice. So let's just use that as an example. You can select what fields of the customers you want to see and what of the invoices. Let's see, we want to see when it's created also. So for each invoice, then now you're going to see, okay, this is the first invoice, and it would make more sense to put this in the invoice table actually than the customers. But you can sort of see how this kind of works. I'm going to remove the level. So this is there, and I'm actually going to show this in the list view invoice, maybe list. I'll do personal again, and then set above. So it looks like you can't do the first level as an invoice here. So let's do customers. Yes. Next, we want to set this. So invoices, we want to do when it was created. Let's do their email, phone number, rating. So now in the invoices, you can view them, all the invoices for this particular customer, which I think it definitely has value. If you want to see all the invoices for Bob, you can see all the invoices. And you can actually, in the levels, you can actually create more. Let me see. Let's customize. Here it is. Let's say you want to see all the services that they paid for, in that, what was included in that invoice. Then you can actually show that here, and these are all the services that are there. You can even add something to that too. I think that tick box means you can add something to that invoice. But I think this is another interesting way to work with the data. It organizes it into a particular way. Another way that you can view this as well is by grouping. You can actually group data. So you can group it by customers if you want to see all the invoices for that customer. You can group it this way and see it that way as well. You can also, I'm going to create another list, and actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to use the same one, and I'm going to take the level away. So these are all invoices in a list, and I don't want to see the services anymore. I just want to see the invoice and when it was created. And if you have a sent, like once you send it, you may want to have a date generated based on when you change the status, and that's an automation that you can create. And it's essentially the same automation I made for when you generate an invoice from an estimate, is that you set the conditions based on the status. So if it's set to sent, then it'll generate a date, and you have to create a formula that creates the today date based on what was set to. I'll go over that in a future video, because that's going to be getting into a little bit more complexity, but it's fairly straightforward. So if you have worked with automations before, you know anything about any kind of automation system, you can probably figure that out. But with this, I just want to show that you can group. So you can group by customers here in the same way that you did before. So this is empty, which means there hasn't been a customer assigned to this invoice, because this is a blank invoice, I'm pretty sure. But you can add a customer, say you forgot it. And let's make this Jane Doe's. So now Jane has an invoice. Now all of our customers that are in our database have an invoice. If these are all collapsed, then I wonder if you can, no. So you can see how many, this number right here is counting how many records is assigned to this customer. So this essentially means how many invoices do they have. And if you wanted to, for example, see how many open invoices they had, then you could filter this by how many have the type. I think we set type. This word invoices. I don't think we have a field set for, actually, what you could do is how many have the status that is sent or paid. It's not paid. So if it's not paid, then it's going to show only the ones that are unpaid. And so now you can see that Johnny Rocket is not here anymore, and that's because Johnny Rocket is set to paid. So that means that these are that's why he's not here. So we could actually rename this to unpaid invoices. Let's call this list, just so it's a different name. And then so in this, you can see by customer how many unpaid invoices they have. And then you can see, okay, this was created on this date. That's several days ago. I need to follow up on that. So then you can go in here, and then you can see what they had, any notes, the status, still work completed. Let's say this is sent. If you need to generate an invoice, maybe you forgot to generate one. You can't click into there from there. I wonder why. Yeah, for some reason you can't go into there from the record itself. That's interesting. I wonder why you can't do that. Oh, you can. Just not from that particular view. Huh. That's interesting. From a list list view, you can't, but from a table view, you can. That's so interesting. I don't know why that is. There's something I've learned that I've noticed with Airtable, that there are certain things you can do in Grid that you can't do, or excuse me, there's pretty much everything you can do in Grid. You can't necessarily do it in a list view. I don't work with lists that much. I usually just do it to clean up data so it looks a little bit nicer. Like I said, all the grids and everything. But for some reason, yeah, you can't do certain things. I did want to show you another thing that I think is helpful for tracking statuses, and that is a Kanban, which is a list. I'm just going to say invoices by status. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm just going to make it a collaborative view, and I'm going to have it be by status. And I think I did show this when I was setting stuff up, but I think this is really helpful because I'm seeing, let me check something, status. That was from when I had made a bad copy. That's why it's there. So let me delete that. So now these are all the statuses. So work completed, sent, paid. So let's say John Doe, we have completed the work. We've generated the invoice, and now work is completed and it's ready to be sent. All right. So now he's sitting here, and let's say you send it. Then you can move this over, and now he's been put into the status of sent. And then once he pays it, you can move it over to paid. And this is a really good visual way, especially if you're working with a team, or you have someone who's sending invoices that's not generating them, or you have an assistant, or you have someone in finance, or the accountant that maybe works for you, that they have access to this Airtable. There's a lot of really creative ways that I think you can use this to help keep everyone on track, and it sort of tracks through how you can use this type of view. It's really, really helpful. Something else I did want to go through as well that I didn't think I went through before, which is sorting. I think that can be really helpful, right? Is that you can sort things by whatever. You can sort different things. So for this, I want to sort by the full name. I want to sort A to Z. So Bob Smart is first because B is the first letter in all of these that come first. If you do want to sort by last name, it's helpful to have these first and last name columns here. And then you can sort by last name, and then you can do A to Z. So Jane Doe and then John Doe. If you want to sort by the first name, again, it's the same thing as going by the full name because it's going to go by the alphabet, the first thing in that string. But it's pretty much the same, but you can sort by that. And then I'll change it back to last name so you can see how that is. So however you want to sort this, I think that's super helpful. You can also sort it by rating. Let's say you want to rate by the best customer to the worst. Now you're going to see the highest rating to the lowest rating. Let's say you want to sort by created. It's going to show you the earliest. Let me hide this field. So created. So this is the earliest or the latest time that was created to the earliest. So if you wanted to see your earliest customer, for example, and you want to see how many, the customers you ordered or that you created and got into your system within a certain period of time or something, you can sort them by that. You can sort them from earliest to latest. You can sort them latest to earliest. You can sort them by different things. You can add another sort. So if you want to sort it by created, and then you want to sort it by the full name after that, so it's going to sort it by this first, and then once that's sorted, it's going to sort it by the name. So there's hierarchical sorting as well, and that can be really helpful to be able to view your data. And you can do that all individually with each table. You can sort those differently. For invoices, you don't have to sort them by this order if you want to sort them by when they were created, which is another good reason why to have a created and a last modified, because you can sort these by the last modified. So you can say the one that's the latest. This one was updated the latest. That way the one at the top is always the first one. So if I update this and I say, Johnny wants to do next year taxes with us again. There you go. Now Johnny's at the top because I've updated his record most recently. So then, there's a lot of really powerful tools in here that if you think about, what's useful, and that's what's really useful with a database is that you have all this data, you have all these different tools, and it's like you need to ask yourself questions of like, okay, what's the most useful? What is going to help me do better, run a better business, make it more efficient, do less, use your time for what you want to use your time for. I think time is the most valuable asset that we have. And there's so many amazing tools in database softwares, whether it's Airtable or Notion or FileMaker, or if it's a custom SQL database that you've coded. There's so many things that can be done with databases. And these are just some of the tools that, in my opinion, are pretty straightforward and pretty simple. And most people are familiar with these tools such as filtering and sorting and grouping. If you're not, now you know and you're familiar with them. And I think that you can use the data that you already have and you can use it in different ways. You can view it differently. You can have different views that show specific things that maybe are shown in a different way in another view or in another table or something like that. You can sort them, you can group them. You don't have to group them just by customer. You can group them by invoice. You can group them by status. You can group them by pretty much any field that is there. These are some really great ways to start viewing your data. And if you found any of this helpful, please subscribe, please share this video with someone that you think is going to find a useful coworker, a friend, family, whoever. Leave a comment of something that you found helpful. If there's anything that you want more help with, or there's a specific question you have, please leave me a comment and I'm totally happy to help. I want to create videos that are helpful, that can help you run your business better, that can help you with your personal life. There's so many use cases for personal life as well, whether it's goal setting or travel planning or daily journals, anything like that. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video, and take care.